Today, I'd like to talk about the Seiko 7000 chronograph family. First, here we have a 6139. The 9 means that it has a 30-minute totalizer. Here we have a 6138, where the 8 means it has an additional 12-hour totalizer. And here we have the most basic of the 7000s. This is a 7017, but there's also a 7015. They only have a movable second hand, as you see here. You could stop and start it, and it has a flyback function, which if you press reset, will reset the chrono without having to stop it first. Unfortunately, my reset on this one has busted it, so it doesn't reset to 0. The internal bezel on this one, the 60-minute bezel, is more useful than the actual stopwatch, but it is what it is with this one. Aesthetically, probably the most interesting of these series is the 7015 times sonar, which has a partially transparent dial that you could see the calendar and date through. But again, overall, with just a moving second hand, it's not terribly functional. And here's my burnt out rat's nest of a 7018. It has a white cream dial. Unfortunately, this has started to discolor. It's not that uncommon with the white ones. The gray ones I don't think have that problem and do look better, I think. But functionally, this has a 30-minute counter, so this is the next step up. And it resembles the most 6139s aesthetically. And here it is running. And like all 7000s, it has a flyback function, so you can hit reset without stopping it, and it'll restart from 0. And here we have the most complicated, the 7016, which has both a 12-hour and 30-minute totalizer at the subdial at 6 o'clock. Interestingly enough, it has links to 2 Swiss companies. Patek Philippe actually used the same double totalizer subdial design in later chronos after this model, and Enicar licensed this exact 7016 model and sold it as a mantograph for a short period of time in the 70s. And here is a size comparison between a 6138 and 7016. Again, both have 12-hour totalizer. Here are some catalog shots for different versions of these watches that I don't have. On the left, we have 2 versions of the 7016. The collectors typically call this the so-called Monaco because it resembles a Heuer Monaco. For me personally, the larger square case I think takes away from the really small and svelte 7016 movement, so I don't really see the attraction, but apparently I represent a small minority on that one. And on the right side, we have 2 versions of the 7018. On the left side, that's the one I have, except the dial is looking the way it's supposed to. And on the right, the chapter ring, I believe, is a tachymeter versus a 60-minute counter. In my experience on Yahoo, for some reason, I think those are a bit more desirable. To conclude, I just like to summarize the differences between the 6100s and the 7000 series chrono. Chronologically, it's believed the 6100s first came out in '69, whereas the 7000s came out in about 1970. The 6100s were made in the Suwa factory, whereas the 7000s were the Dani factory. Functionally, if you're really looking for reasons to go for a 7000, the 2 main ones are it has flyback functions, which the 6100s don't have, and also since the movements were thinner, and when I say thinner, the 6100s were anywhere from like 6.6 to 8 millimeters thick, and the 7000 series were maybe 5.9 to 6.4 millimeters thick. So sometimes the sports cases don't really show you much of a difference, but I think probably the best example of a good difference is the 7016 in the round form, not the Monaco. The main downsides, fewer were made, so spare parts are harder to find. You don't always get the best condition with the 7000s, and since supply is limited, you have to deal with what you have to deal with. As probably a good example is my 7018 burnt out dial. Again, I got lucky and I found a new old stock replacement, but looking for 7016 parts, for instance, I've not had any luck looking for years. So those are really the risks you take. Well, that's about it for this video, and as usual, thanks for watching.